Creative destruction has been defining our economic systems since the dawn of time. Hey YouTube, Tactical Tammy here. I wanted to talk about an economic concept called creative destruction. What is creative destruction and how does it relate to gold and silver stacking? Creative destruction is this economic concept that new inventions take the place of older systems and older inventions over time. I'll give you a kind of a classic example that was out there. We used to have a huge workforce of tellers in banks over the years, and those tellers worked really hard counting out the right amount of cash for people. When it came payday, everyone would go to the bank, they would get cash out of the bank, and they'd talk to their local teller. They would count out the right amount of coins and the right amount of currency, and they'd get the proper amount back from their employers after cashing their checks. We had ATMs that came along. ATMs were thought at the time that they were going to completely destroy all of the tellers' jobs. And in the end, it did creatively destroy some of those jobs. You don't need nearly as many tellers as we did back in the day. It used to be a whole line of tellers that would be needed, especially on a Friday, to make sure that people got the right amount of cash that they needed. How is this creative destruction and how does this actually apply to us? And how does it apply to gold and silver stackers? Well, it does. Creative destruction is when it frees up these people for doing other things. How does this relate to gold and silver? We have to think about what is the role of gold and silver. Is the role of gold and silver just being a pretty shiny metal that we like to look at? Well, in this case, yes, you know I love my lunars here, but it's not actually its only role. Gold's role is having that safe haven asset where we can default to in emergencies if we ever need those savings for any reason. It also can default as a medium of exchange if, for instance, our currency no longer has value. And there's lots of examples throughout history where currencies do lose their value, and we need to be prepared for those times. I think that another important thing that we use gold and silver for is a store of value and holding that value into the future and preserving that purchasing power. Are there any technologies out there that are starting to replace gold and silver in these areas? Are there anything that's a safe haven asset that's outside the banking system, anything that's a medium of exchange and that holds value over time? A lot of you are probably looking down at the left-hand corner, especially my crypto guys. They're shouting, hey, crypto is filling this void to a T. And I'm inclined to see that, yes, crypto does fill some of these voids. How so? Well, crypto is a medium of exchange that is outside the banking system. So check that as one pro. Another pro is that it does seem to hold value depending on the time that you buy. If you're buying at these all-time highs, well, you're definitely not going to be preserving that purchasing power. It also is extremely divisible. You would have no idea on this tiny little flash drive, or ledger as the crypto guys call it, you'd have no idea how much value is actually stored in that flash drive. It's incredibly divisible because I could take part of that value. If I did have a lot of value on one flash drive, I could diversify it out and move it to lots of other ledgers so that I could distribute it and not have all that value in one place. It also gets pros for the divisibility. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge crypto guy. And despite these, seeming advantages, I think that some of my crypto guys get kind of caught up in the weeds. And they have to remember that there are some serious downsides to cryptocurrency that don't necessarily exclude gold and silver from being that safe haven emergency medium of exchange that holds value over time. And probably the biggest thing is that this cryptocurrency, you need energy to actually access and use this cryptocurrency. That's something that can't be said for gold. Gold and silver have been used for thousands and thousands of years in terms of holding value. Not only do they hold value, but you don't need any energy to necessarily use and weigh gold and silver. That's different than cryptocurrency where you're having to power computers, power phones, power these ledgers to actually view and see how much is on them. So It needs power. The other thing is that these things are fragile. These flash drives and these ledgers are really, really fragile. In terms of durability, these things, this gold and silver, it could go through a house fire. It could be submerged in water, and it's gonna be just fine. Sure, at least for these premium coins, you might not get the whole premium back out of it, but you will get some value. The gold and silver is not necessarily going to go bad. It just might not look quite as pretty as it once did. So there's not the durability behind these cryptocurrencies and these different ledgers. There's also not the longevity. There's a huge history of gold and silver where we can see that it's preserved its purchasing power over time. Crypto just simply hasn't had enough time, or doesn't have enough time, to actually show that durability and show that preservation of purchasing power over time. So if I'm not the crypto guy, and crypto's not creatively destroying gold and silver's role as a store of value and an emergency medium of exchange asset, well then, are there any other things that we need to look for in terms of things that might replace gold and silver? You've got fiat currency. That's something that people would remark as, hey, that's what has taken the place of gold and silver, and falls short on a lot of the preserving purchasing power as we constantly see the value of our dollar going down. So I don't know if I would necessarily recommend just saving in the dollar, especially over the longer term. Now, I am a huge fan of making sure that you have a strong cash position for any emergencies that do come up, because that's something that's really important to be able to deal with on a personal finance note, not just in terms of preserving your purchasing power and growing your purchasing power, but being ready for life's little things that come about. We don't want to be having to go down to the coin shop and sell our precious gold and silver at a moment's notice just because our car got a flat tire or our AC went out. Other people, and other preppers especially, will point to barter items as something that would be a replacement for gold and silver, and I'm just super skeptical that you could go out and barter whatever it is, bullets or beans or anything else that you could be hoarding, alcohol, any of these other cigarettes, any of these other barter items are just simply not gonna be as divisible or recognizable, and everyone's gonna be valuing different barter items. It's not gonna be like gold and silver that everyone can kind of save as the medium of exchange as a default. If it's not barter items, it's not gonna be our fiat cash. Well, that kind of leaves us with the tried and true gold and silver coin as our favorite way to store our purchasing power and make sure that we have an emergency asset in case we have trouble in the future. I hope you have enjoyed this video and you learned something, maybe a little bit of something about crypto or maybe something about gold and silver. And if you want to join me on this journey learning about gold and silver and investing in general, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and also drop a like and comment down below, as I really enjoy hearing from you guys. Take care.